That there is so much vacant space in Australia. So buying a house here would be very affordable, but the reality is completely opposite to this. But before that, let me tell you a little about the Australian mentality. However, wherever you are in the world, buying your own house is easy. A person has a desire, but for Australians, home is a national identity. In Australia, home is considered a sign of stability and prosperity. Even today, having a home close to 75 Australians is their top priority and dream. But this dream is now slowly dying. It is happening, and let me explain why I am saying this. In 1970, the average annual salary in Sydney was $200, and at that time the price of a normal house was around $700. By 2024, this average annual salary has reached $74, that is, in 1970. 17 times more than the salary. But on the other hand, today the average house price is $1.5 million, which is 80 times higher than the 1970 housing price. This means that even if you save your entire salary for the next 20 years, it will be very difficult to buy a house. We'll be able to because in 20 years house prices will have gone up further, and this is the situation not only in Sydney but in all the big Australian cities. Even in Australia, people who are earning $1 lakh can afford houses at just 13 rupees. And even for these 13 houses they have to take very high mortgages. Because Australia has remained unknown in the entire human history, and it was discovered for the first time by a Dutchman named William Jan in 1606 when he was returning from Indonesia with trade goods, and due to a storm on the way, his ship got stuck in the Tamar Sea. William came back and informed everyone about this island, and then in 1770, British explorer Captain James Cook set out on this journey with a few of his companions and landed at Botany Bay on the eastern side of Australia. When he and his companions landed here, they had a fierce fight with the local people, and Captain Cook had to run back to save his life. Then after 8 years, Captain Arthur Phillip came here with 300 people on 11 ships, and he attacked this coastline. After capturing this part and bringing it under British control, he tried to discover the western side of Australia. But due to the hot climate of the desert and the intensity of thirst, many of his companions died and he was forced to return. Australia actually became famous. Huge reserves of gold were discovered in a village named Baths, 185,121 kilometers away. In the next 20 years, 40% of the world's gold production started taking place in Australia. All this gold would go from here to Britain, and the British government would use this gold to set the rate of pound. The years maintain these 20 years. It is called the Gold Rush. During these 20 years, millions of people from Europe and America came to Australia and settled in Australia. When this gold was discovered, the population of Australia was 45 lakhs, and after 20 years in 187, the population of this nation had reached 1.7 million from 187 to 1900. Till 1901, Australia was divided into 6 colonies. Then in 1901, all these colonies came together and a country by the name of Commonwealth State of Australia came on the world map, and after this, the journey of progress of Australia started. At that time, apart from white people, there was no one else in Australia. Were not given immigration, and it remained like this for the next 60 years. Then finally in 1967, the non-white immigration policy was abolished and the criteria for immigration was changed from skin color to skill, after which thousands of people from Asia, Middle East and Pacific came to Australia. Started coming and settling in Australia until today. People from many cultural backgrounds are coming and settling in Australia, and that is why Australia is now a multicultural country where you will find people of every race and religion. Today Australia is the friendliest country in the world in quality in terms of quality of life. It is at number 8 in the world, and that is why it is a dream country for many people of South Asia. But Australia is falling into a trap. In the last few years, Australia has been in the list of least affordable countries in the world. 3 cities of Australia have come on top. Sydney is the second most expensive city in the world after Hong Kong. Its housing market has a big role in making Australia unaffordable. After watching the videos so far, this is what you might be thinking. That there is so much vacant space in Australia. so buying a house here would be very affordable, but the reality is completely opposite to this. But before that, let me tell you a little about the Australian mentality. However, wherever you are in the world, buying your own house is easy. A person has a desire, but for Australians, home is a national identity. In Australia, home is considered a sign of stability and prosperity. Even today, having a home close to 75 Australians is their top priority and dream, but this dream is now slowly dying. It is happening, and let me explain why I am saying this. In 1970, the average annual salary in Sydney was $200, and at that time the price of a normal house was around $700. By 2024, this average annual salary has reached $74, that is, in 1970. 17 times more than the salary, but on the other hand, today the average house price is $1.5 million, which is 80 times higher than the 1970 housing price. This means that even if you save your entire salary for the next 20 years, it will be very difficult to buy a house. Because house prices will have gone up further in 20 years, and this is not just Sydney, but this is the situation in all the big Australian cities. Even in Australia, people who are earning $1 lakh can afford houses at just 13 rupees. And even for these 13 houses they have to take very high mortgages. And that is why Australian households have one of the largest debts in the world, and this situation is now getting worse because every year 4 lakh people are being added to the Australian population. Australia's population growth is almost double that of Canada and USA. The biggest reason for growth is immigration. Every year thousands of people from China and South Asia come to Australia. Some of these people become Australian nationals after years. But many people are not able to get nationality even after spending lakhs of rupees on a degree, and they keep extending their visa by doing jobs and taking admission in different small colleges in the hope that someday the points will be completed and they will get PR. But the demand for houses to accommodate so many immigrants is much less than the supply, and due to this difference of supply and demand, the price of houses in Australia is on fire because 90% of Australians live in these 4 cities. There is a lot of land lying vacant in between, but it is not capable of growing anything there. So only these 3-4 cities are left to accommodate this increasing population. Now, because all the jobs and universities are in these cities, immigrants and students also come to these cities. Now Australia has the option is to impose restrictions on immigration, but doing so will have a very bad impact on Australia's own economy because Australia's economy is almost dependent on foreign students. Those who come to Australia to study so that after completing their education they can get a job and get PR. The fees of universities in Australia are very high, and these fees of the students coming from India, Pakistan and China give a lot of boost to Australia's economy. And secondly, its population is small to meet industry requirements, and hence it needs labor from outside. But such labor which speaks English well and has relevant skills, in such a situation, Australia cannot reduce immigration. Yes, policies Australia has already made. It has been made strict so that only qualified people can be given PR. In such a situation, when lakhs of people will come to Australia every year, it will become very difficult to make arrangements for their accommodation. Australia is now working on such plans through which they can reach this desert by building dams. Water will be supplied and fields will be grown here, but it will take many years to execute this plan. Until then, Australia will have to build houses for the immigrants coming to the cities located on this coastline. Until then, the immigrants will have to live with high rents, and high housing prices will have to be tolerated. Australia is truly an example of right planning. The country that was settled only 200 years ago is today one of the top economies in the world. Let's see how Australia is dealing with this housing crisis. If you like the video, then do like it and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video with another interesting topic. Till then, take care. Jai Shri Ram.